For anyone interested in workouts, guaranteed to produce more impressive results, you gotta check out our new sponsor, Blue Star Nutraceuticals, PPK pre-workout formula. When it comes to my workouts, I prefer something that will fuel my performance above and beyond your typical energy drink. PPK is a science-backed pre-workout formula that does a lot more than just stimulate your central nervous system. Every serving of thirst-quenching PPK helps increase muscle pumps, strength, power, lean muscle, and energy. Here's what I love about it. PPK is only 30 calories per serving. It contains no beta-alanine, so you'll never be bothered by itchiness, pins and needles, or other skin irritations commonly associated with beta-alanine containing pre-workouts. Frustrated with your workout progress? One serving of PPK will squash those feelings immediately. Take PPK 30 minutes before your workout and experience an entirely new way of training every time. Get the best workout of your life with PPK. Go to bluestar.fit/Chael. That's going to get you 10% off your next order, or just click on the link below. Paddy Pimblett versus Conor McGregor. Biggest pay-per-view in the history of the UFC, end quote. Paddy Pimblett said these words. Now, there's a lot happening there, and it's not as obvious as you think. Paddy Pimblett versus Conor McGregor simply is not going to happen. And it's not going to happen for a number of reasons. And Paddy is not wrong to think his ability to bring attention in conjunction with Conor's ability to bring attention equals success. That fight's a miss for a couple of reasons, largely just the age. Now, I'm not against Paddy saying it, not at all. I'm very pro Paddy. There was a time over here, guys, I wasn't going to say his word. I wasn't going to say his name again. I was done with Paddy. He's a young guy. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what we're doing here. He's out of the club. Chael's rules. Well, I got to take those back. Paddy has completely changed my mind with his last fight. Now, not only was the performance eligible for a guy who could be a future world champion, not only that, his interview. I mean, in all fairness, knowing what Paddy was dealing with going into that contest, Paddy was professional. This is one thing I didn't think he was. See, I thought this is a kid. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's got a big mouth and a couple of skills. And if you put him with some club fighters, like you got to do with a lot of the British guys, because they're terrible, he can be around for a little bit on an undercard. I really thought these things. I don't, not one of those things do I think now. The skills truly showed potential of a future world champion. I saw nothing within that match. Didn't make me think he could do it. And I will also contend for you, I don't think that he was at his best. Now, I don't like when guys do that, and they usually do it when they lose. When they lose, they weren't at their best. There's all of these reasons. Paddy looked phenomenal. Not just good. That's a strong word. You guys ever even heard me use that word, phenomenal? He looked phenomenal. And if I knew a stronger word, I would use it instead. It was that good. I don't maintain that he was at his best. I think this weight cutting stuff's a real issue. Pulling that out of your body and putting it back in. And again, generally you hear this when a guy gets beat. He, his team, his coaches, someone looking out for him will put in an insert that the cut just drained him too much. Now, there's not a truth to that because you're given 24 hours, which turns closer to about 32 hours by the time you weigh in and you go out and compete. In a wrestling match, just for perspective, you have 1 hour. You will weigh in and 1 hour later you are on the mat. Now, wrestling does that as a deterrent to lose weight. But I'm just sharing for you 24 hours, no matter how bad you were hurt. No matter how bad you were sucked, you get trapped in the desert and somebody has to find you and rush you to an emergency room. 24 hours later, you're going to be fine. That's just the truth. Now, it still takes a toll in this regard. If you're going into the practice room, if you're going into your cardio workouts with the goal of getting weight off, of burning calories, of increasing your sweat, as opposed to getting better, it takes away. So I only bring you, I don't believe this young man that I saw that has the potential to be the champion of the world, period. I also don't think was at his best. I think there's another way to do things. I think there's a better way to do things. I think he can come in even stronger. And then you have the emotional side. Guys, if you are dealing with something emotional, you'll hear people talk about this, and they'll talk about their spiritual side, physically and mentally and spiritually. Some guys will slip in the spiritual. And you always think they're trying to play some some homage to the God, trying to talk the Almighty into letting them whip another man's ass. It is such blasphemy, and it is so offensive. However, when they do talk about the spiritual side, they're just talking about how they feel and stuff. Man, I'm not dealing with stresses. I'm focused on this moment. Things are going pretty well for me. Family's good, wife's happy. I mean, it's one of these things, and it is very relevant because if you don't have that, it will drain you and you're not going to perform at your best. Everything that I talk about that goes into a fight and everything I say that's going to hurt you, so you understand what's going to be hurting, it isn't your ability, it isn't your memory of a combination, it isn't seeing range and testing shots, it isn't offense and defense, it's fatigue. Anything I ever tell you that could affect a fighter prior to the fight, anything that a fighter tells you could affect the fighter going into a fight, right? That includes an injury. Injury doesn't have anything to do with my ability out there. It has to do with my ability to prepare. If I did not prepare properly, I will reach fatigue. And that's all that this sport is. The first round, and really it's about the first 2 minutes of the first round, but the first round you will see from an athletic standpoint who's better. Who's got greater DNA? Who's got faster twitch? You will. Whose eyes are better? After that, you're in the tough guy business, and all you're trying to do is take his will away. And the announcers can tell you till we're blue in the face, and I'm one of them. I'm chopping the leg down because that's going to play dividends down the road. I'm going to wear his leg out. Man, none of that stuff happens. Zero. I'm trying to take his will. Is his will stronger than mine? I hold up, or can he? So whenever I talk to you about something that could harm a fighter going into a contest, I'm just talking about fatigue. We talk about pressure a lot over here. They're all the sports guys on all the channels talking about who's got the pressure, but they never finish the thought. Now, they don't finish the thought because they think that you know. They finish the thought because they don't know what in the hell they're saying. They heard some other sports guy say it. So they just brought the word pressure over, and it seems to work. Pressure creates a stress. Stress has a chemical reaction from your brain that releases through your body that creates fatigue. So as good as Paddy looked in his ability to push the pace and out-scramble his opponent, out-hustle and outwork his opponent, I maintain he was dealing with stretches and pressures mentally and physically. Mental stress, physical stress that caused a fatigue, and he was still able to be the one going harder. I submit for you that performance was as close to perfect as I have seen in a period of time, particularly at that weight class. And I submit for you, he was not at his best. When he gave that post-fight interview and we found out, right, a moment ago, I'm going back to talking about spiritual, I was talking about emotion, how you're feeling going to it, and we find out that he was dealing with a death, the loss of a loved one. We didn't know that till after the fight. He did all of his media. He did all of his social media. He filled up a house. He trained. He made weight. He kept his mouth shut. He stayed professional until it was time to break and to be a real human being. And he did it right in front of all of us. So my days of giving Paddy a hard time, I'm just sharing with you why they're behind me. I don't like this fat shame business. I don't think that's an interesting story. I don't think it's interesting what you weigh. You've never asked me what I weigh. We don't talk about people's weight. And for some reason, it's interesting with Paddy, and then to the point that we're even judging him and giving him a hard time. I don't understand it. I think it's a nerdy thing to do for a guy who's pretty cool. Paddy calling out Conor, and that might be a little stronger than what he did here. I'll give you the quote again. Paddy Pimblett versus Conor McGregor will be the biggest pay-per-view UFC history. That's not quite a call-out as much as it was just a thought and a statement, but it's close. He got real close to calling out Conor. Conor goes into the category of people that Paddy looks up to, that Paddy aspires to be like. Guys that this young man put in an untouchable category. Nope, he did it anyway. It's a big deal. One thing that Paddy has not done yet, he hasn't needed to. Those arenas are packed. But one thing that he hasn't done is called somebody out. He has not issued a challenge. He has not ever told us who he wants to fight. To the extent that we have yet to see a Paddy Pimblett fight opposite an opponent that we wanted ahead of time. Talk about prior to the bout agreement, prior to the announcement, prior to this being done. Paddy has yet to be in there with somebody that there was a story or an interest prior to. And the fact that he is now basically I got to go light on it. It wasn't quite a call out. I'm not trying to start something between Paddy and Conor. That fight isn't going to happen. That fight isn't going to work quite the way they see. If I'm a promoter, I can fill up a house with Conor. I can fill it up with Paddy. There's no point in putting them together. That's not the fight that people are clamoring for. But would we have fun before the fight? Yeah, sure we would. If you have the opportunity for the oldest story of the book of the passing of the guard, yeah, sure you would. But none of that is the principal motto that I came away with here. We've now seen Paddy for the first time showing that he doesn't look up. He doesn't hold people in a different class. And if you want to be the king, you got to take out the king. And I don't mean that Paddy's got to take Conor McGregor. You can't come in and start talking about these other guys as though you look up to all of them. Nobody's off limits. No one's off limits. If you want to have stardom, if you want to have Chimaev-esque media attention, anyone, anywhere, anytime, that message has got to be out there. And this is as close as Paddy's ever done to showing us that side, to showing us that he does have that ingredient, showing us he's not standing down and he's not backing down from anybody. I realize it wasn't quite a call out, but I wanted you guys to miss what happened here. Paddy's showing us a new side. And there's several gears, Jeff, that Paddy hasn't hit. I thought he hasn't hit him because he doesn't know him yet. He doesn't quite understand the business. Another good argument for why he hasn't shifted into those gears yet is he doesn't need to. That arena's got only so many seats. And to be better and doing a better job than everybody else doesn't mean you have to do the absolute best job that you know how. You study them, you stay in front of them. You keep a couple in your back pocket. Ace up your sleeve, if you will. And I think Paddy's sitting on a couple of aces. And I like the fact, whether it was a call out or not, I like the fact that Paddy has shown us he's willing to stand opposite anyone.